Hare Krishna. I saw the note about wanting to possibly start a little early. When would you like to start, just to lead into that for the timing? Or if comedy, if you're on the call as well.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, sorry. I just put a message asking everyone to join as soon as possible. I'm not sure of the time.
Okay. Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. Would you like to start a few minutes early?
I'm ready. If that's all right.
Okay.
I'm ready. Can you hear me?
Okay. Yes, Maharaj.
Recording in progress.
Hare Krishna, everyone, and welcome back for the final session on this Friday of Vyasa Puja weekend festivities. Tonight, we will be hearing a class given by His Holiness Ramapad Swami, where he will be speaking on 3 aspects of gratitude: cognitive, effective, motivational.
Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin Iti Namine Namaste Sarasate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Desatarine Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. I hope you had a good time together with the breakout sessions. The intention was to more deeply explore the meaning of gratitude and in particular the application of cultivating gratitude and expressing gratitude and living one's life that way in devotion to Krishna, of course. This evening, I mentioned it in the morning class, it's exploring three aspects of gratitude. There's a cognitive aspect, recognizing what it is that you are the recipient of. Affective, what you feel when you recognize that which you have been gifted. And a motivational element, we want to do something. So here's 3 boxes below the larger gratitude box. Some kindness has been received, and there's a cognitive requirement, recognizing that. There's an affective element, feelings related to that kindness that has been received. And gratitude is also expressing what you want to do, having received some act of kindness from some source. So gratitude has those 3 parts. That's this evening's discussion. We're going to start with the cognitive message. Here's a gentleman, Eric Hoffer, who a contemporary philosopher and writer, and he's known as an American moralist and social philosopher. He won a Presidential Medal of Freedom. Interesting way of expressing. The hardest arithmetic to master is that which enables us to count our blessings. Now, if he was part of some religious affiliation, I don't know, and it's not really the message from him in any case, at least in this particular application. There's a morality and a social responsibility that is the place from which he wrote, as far as I understand it, and that is, we have received so many blessings. And the cognizance of that is the beginning. Now, he did more than just recognize that he did something. He must have felt something, and he certainly did something. He wrote, and he tried in his own way to move the American population in the direction of gratitude by moral and social conduct. There's a absence of a cognitive element in the story of Sanatana Goswami's touchstone. Now, most likely everybody that's with us this evening knows the story, and no harm to hear it again and again. Sanatan Goswami, as we know, was a most elevated Vaishnava. Prior to his being an elevated Vaishnava, he was an elevated person in the social world, in the political world, in the influencing others world. He was a prime minister of the Nawab Hussain Shah's government. And he left it all to live something like what you see in this painting. Living very simply, writing transcendental literature as he was instructed by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and immersing himself in the holy name. So the touchstone story begins with one Brahmana in Vrindavan who was quite poor and had daughters to marry and had no way to arrange for a dowry, and was beside himself with concern how to accomplish that which he had no means to accomplish. And an idea came to him. It's known that Sanatan Goswami is very kind to the Brahmins. And I heard that Sanatan Goswami has a touchstone. So if I go and appeal to Sanatan Goswami for a gift of charity so they can have my daughters married, the touchstone that he has, maybe he'll give that to me, then my problem is solved. So he went to Sanatan Goswami and expressed his anxiety and his need, and made his request for the gift of charity to a Brahmin. Of course, Sanatan Goswami is a Brahmin, but Brahmins give charity to Brahmins, no problem. And so Sanatan Goswami said, sure, you can have my touchstone. And the man wanted to know where he kept it, and he said, it's over there in the rubbish pile. So the man went, and sure enough, he found what looked like a touchstone, and he took it back to his home, and he touched it to an iron pot, and the iron pot turned into gold. So he was very happy. He found other base metal items, and sure enough, they transformed into gold. But because he was a Brahmin, he could understand, if he has this in the rubbish pile, there must be something that Sanatan Goswami has that's more valuable than this. So some days later he went back and appealed to Sanatan Goswami. Since you had this in the rubbish pile, it must mean that you have something more valuable than the touchstone. And Sanatan Goswami confirmed, yes, much more valuable. Could you give that to me in charity also? And Sanatan Goswami said, sure. Just one condition. Take the touchstone and throw it in the river Jamuna. And you won't be able to get it back again if you throw it in the river Jamuna. But I'll be glad to give you something that's more valuable on that condition. And the Brahmana, trusting Sanatan Goswami's word, did exactly what he suggested. He threw it in the river. And very kindly, Sanatan Goswami then gave him something that's far more valuable than a touchstone, and that's the holy name, Nama Chintamani, Krishna's. Many people value gold more than they value that which is more valuable than gold, and that has to do with not being cognizant of the value or the gift, the worth of the holy name. Why I'm narrating this story. But there are other examples in Scripture where all three features of gratitude are manifested in ideal devotees. And even less than ideal devotees will hear. One of them that I want to speak about is Queen Kunti. And this particular feature of Queen Kunti's gratitude is found in Mahabharata. Now, of course, Queen Kunti and the Pandavas were very grateful to Vidura for having saved their lives, because Vidura knew the plan of Duryodhana and his associates to kill the Pandavas in the house of Lak, the big fire. And on the evening that was planned, news was given, this is the evening, escape through the tunnel that was arranged again by Vidura. And sure enough, they escaped through the tunnel, went on the other side to the edge of the river, and there was Vidura waiting with a boat to take them across the river. And when they crossed the river, they just went for the rest of the night, the long narration in Mahabharata, with powerful Bhima carrying his 4 brothers and his mother on his shoulders, and they took rest at night, only to meet Hidimba and Hidimbi and all those things that happened. While they're now thought by the rest of the residents in Hastinapur as having been killed in a fire, it was advised by Vyasa, who knew differently, that they should remain incognito for some time. And in fact, he made a suggestion where they could stay. The place that he recommended for them was a place known as Ekachakra. These are line drawings taken from what was going to be a publication by Hridayananda Maharaj on Mahabharata. And it's just illustrations of the Mahabharata. So there's Vyasa entering that archway that we familiarly known as the place that marks where Ekachakra is. And his advice was for them to remain disguised as Brahmanas, because Ekachakra, during the Pandavas' time, and even during Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's time, was a place of many, many Brahmanas. That was the nature of this Ekachakra village. Of course, agricultural land, but predominantly Brahmanas. So they were disguised as Brahmanas, and for their maintenance, this shows Bhima with his massive arms going with his begging bowl door to door in the village of Ekachakra, accepting alms from the villagers. And very kindly, one Brahmana family gave accommodation to Kunti and her 5 sons. And there's a very lengthy description, very heartstring-pulling description of what the family was discussing. And we see Queen Kunti in the background, hearing their discussion. And the discussion was about a demon named Baka, a different demon than the one that Krishna killed, Bakasura, but also a demon, Baka, who was a Rakshasa and was tormenting the people of Ekachakra indiscriminately. So they made a pact with Baka. And that was once a month, a whole ox cart loaded with food would be taken to Baka, and along with the oxen and the driver. And Baka would be able to eat all the ox cart load of food, plus the oxen, plus the driver. And they would take turns in the Ekachakra village, who would be the one to sacrifice a family member to drive the ox cart to Baka, to pacify him so he wouldn't attack wildly. it was now the family's turn. It's a very emotional, many pages long description of what each family member had to say about, let me be the one, the others you shouldn't go, and the self-sacrifice of this Brahmana family, because they weren't trying to escape their turn, but selecting which amongst the family members was the one that was going to be the human sacrifice for the Baka demon. And very emotional, very moving. And as you see, Kunti's hearing all this discussion. And here's another illustration of the same. She then approaches the father of the family, volunteering that one of her sons could be the one to take the ox cart to Baka and make the sacrifice to Baka. Now, that's not something that the Brahmana could allow, because you're our guest in our home, and we serve you and take care of you and provide all necessities. Can't accept this. And Queen Kunti was very persuasive. She said, "You don't understand my son." She was thinking specifically Bhima. And, she's the mother of 5 powerful young men, but she didn't do anything without consulting Yudhisthira and vice versa. It just gives something of the etiquette of cultured people. So here's a little section from Mahabharata where Kunti's speaking first to Bhima. A person's character is measured by his gratitude. When kindness is shown to a gentleman, he never forgets it, and he feels that he must do even more in return. Remember our 3 components of gratitude: cognitive, affective, and motivational. So she's persuading or offering to Bhima, why don't you be the one to make this sacrifice? Knowing that Bhima could easily defeat anyone, no problem. And then she has a similar discussion with Yudhisthira. Here in this Brahmana's house we have been living very happily, and I've correctly concluded that we must do something for him in return. After all, a man is measured by his gratitude, that whatever is done for him is not forgotten. Now, this is spoken as a cultural point, but it's also a character point. It's a one who is elevated in consciousness doesn't skip over feeling grateful, recognizing what has been done for one, feeling grateful, and then doing something in return, not in monetary or entrepreneurial sense, but in a relational sense, in a cultured person sense. In the same section, she goes on, I made it because he raised some possible concerns. I made up my mind to repay our debt to the learned Brahmana. With careful thought, I've determined our duty. There will be 2 purposes accomplished. We shall repay our stay in this house, and we shall perform an act of great piety. I have heard from authorities that a warrior who helps a Brahmana in his hour of need attains the planets where the pious dwell. Now that sounds like there's a what's in it for me kind of message. But let us remember that in Mahabharata, a major element of Mahabharata is teaching proper conduct. Good versus evil. And what's the standard of dharma and what's the standard of adharma. In teaching this even worldly dharma, there is something that comes from worldly dharma. Now, it's not to say that Kunti wants the pious credit so that she can attain the planets where the pious dwell. I'm just spending some time on the what's in it for me part. The selfless gratitude is done simply because it's to be done. It's the way to live one's life. And what those who live by Dharma are protected by Dharma. We mentioned this already. Dharmo rakshati rakshataha. So I bringing this to your attention because it has all three parts or components of gratitude: a cognitive, an affective, and a motivational. So sure enough, what happened. It was agreed. Bhima went with the cart and the oxen and the offerings to the Baka demon. But he's a voracious eater, and on his way he was one hand holding the reins of the oxen, and the other hand he was reaching in the back of the cart and was eating from the cart. And when Baka saw that half the cart was already eaten because Bhima was eating it, he was enraged and he attacked Bhima. Bhima held him off with one hand while he ate the rest of the cart with his other hand. And then they had a big fight and Baka was killed. So everybody was happy. But if you have Bhima on your side, you don't need to worry about things like this. And if you have Krishna on your side, you can be a transcendentalist with gratitude towards all that we have received from Krishna. Now, following this stay in Ekachakra, there's another sequence of events that takes place that involves Mayadanava. And Mayadanava is not a great devotee like Queen Kunti is, but he exhibited the qualities of gratitude in all three phases. So after they left Ekachakra, they were on the path and they were heading, wandering here and there, and they came to know that Draupadi's Swayamvar was taking place. So they followed where all the kings and brahmanas were going to where that Swayamvar was taking place. And that's important event in Mahabharata where Arjuna won the hand of Draupadi. There was a big fight, including Karna, who was insulted because he wasn't allowed to be part of that combat, or the test of talent to gain the hand of Draupadi, because he wasn't a Kshatriya. And it was a big fight. Bhima and Arjuna held them off. And then Arjuna brought Draupadi, not yet married, back to where Kunti was and gave her the good news. And before seeing what the good news was, she just said what she said about everything. Please share this amongst yourselves. So they all five married Draupadi in Kampilya, the capital of the Panchala kingdom where she was born. This is a drawing from Mahabharata showing there's Yudhishthir and the musicians as the procession was going forward for their marriage. And as we know, Krishna had a role. He was participating in the marriage. Krishna was present even when the winning of Draupadi's hand took place. You know that circumstance. Krishna was there because he had heard that the Pandavas had been killed, and in the house of lac, although he's omniscient, he knew they hadn't. So he and Balaram went to attend the funeral. And sometime later is this event with Draupadi becoming married, so Krishna was there. And Krishna was the servant of the Pandavas by being in charge of singing wonderful songs in praise of the Pandavas, especially Yudhisthira. So after some time, after Draupadi's marriage, another event, a changing of scenery event, is Vidura came to visit. And there you see Krishna in the painting also, and the 5 Pandava brothers. We don't see Kunti, but she's there, Draupadi's there. So they were all invited to go back to Hastinapur. That was Vidura's recommendation, because persons thought that he was dead, or all of them were dead, but they're not dead. So now it's time to return to Hastinapur. So they, under Vidura's recommendation, they returned to Hastinapur. There was a big commotion, particularly by Duryodhana and others that, didn't want their presence, and some back and forth, and finally Dhritarashtra very wisely, uncommonly wisely at least, gave half of the kingdom to the Pandavas, but the undeveloped half, the Khandava Prastha, later became Indraprastha, but Khandava is the name of a forest, Khandava Prastha. Krishna made a request after that gift was given that Vishvakarma construct their capital. And it took some time, of course, but Vishvakarma is a very expert personality. And Krishna then returned to Dwarka. Now, for a while, the Pandavas are remaining in Khandava Prastha, living in their developed kingdom. And an event occurred which caused Arjuna to go on pilgrimage. The event was there were some troublemakers causing trouble for the cowherds. Arjuna, seeing that or having it reported to him, he went to get his bow and arrows and chase them away. But where his bow and arrows were is the place where Yudhisthira and Draupadi were together, because there was this arrangement for 1 month. Draupadi would be undisturbed in private with one of the 5 brothers. And it was Yudhisthira's turn. Arjuna apologized, saying, I broke our mother's vow, or our plan, our agreement. So I'm going to purify myself. I'm going on pilgrimage. And there was some conversation if he was determined to go on pilgrimage. So he went on pilgrimage, and one of the places he went to was Dwarka. And when he was in Dwarka, a very elaborate description is provided in the Bhagavatam that he married Subhadra in a very chivalrous way. And Krishna approved. And when Subhadra and Arjuna returned back to Khandava Prastha, Krishna went with them. So now Krishna is back in Khandava Prastha with Arjuna, and they're enjoying life together in Khandava Prastha. So one day, it was in the summer, very hot, and Arjuna made a suggestion. There are many nice summer homes that we've made here in Khandava Prastha. Let's go sporting in the forest together. So they did. They entered one house, and they were provided very nice food by the people who were there. And then they went for a stroll deeper into the forest. They took rest at a place that was, Arjuna indicates, was like a coral bench, very near to the Jamuna River, where there's a nice breeze coming off the river, and they could rest and relax. And Mahabharata describes they were talking about their previous battles and how the battles went and so forth. They were just enjoying like friends. In fact, when they went into one of those houses, there's a scene that's described. They were provided a place to rest after their meal. And just like we find in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna and Arjuna were resting side by side, just like friends. Just like friends. Then they're in the thicker into the forested area, and we're going to hear something about Mayadanava. But before Mayadanava appears, this is Mayadanava, he has a little crown on his head, and he's very dark complexioned. Let's hear about what happened. As they're sitting there by the side of the river Jamuna, appreciating the scenery, somewhere out of the thickness of the forest came a very unusual looking Brahmana. Here's how he's described. A Brahmana suddenly emerged from the woods. He resembled an old sal tree with a complexion like molten gold. His beard and hair were bright yellow, and he shone like the morning sun. His two eyes were like lotus leaves, and his body was well formed and powerful. As the Brahmin approached Krishna and Arjuna, blazing like fire, they stood up and awaited his order. And the Brahmana presented a request in all humility. I'm very hungry, and I'm requesting that you make some arrangement for my meals. And Krishna and Arjuna replied, we'll be very happy to do whatever service we can do for you, dear Brahmin. Please tell us what it is that you would like. And the Brahmana replied, my meal is not ordinary food. My requirement for food is this entire Khandava forest. Can you make that arrangement for me? They said, why do you want the whole forest? And he indicated his reason. He said, actually, I'm Agni, the god of fire. And I have become ill by a yajna that was performed by one king, and so much ghee was poured into the fire that I've become sick. So there's some special herbs in this Khandava forest that I need to consume, and then my illness will be taken care of. The problem is, inside this forest is Naga Takshaka, who is protected by Indra. Naga Takshaka is a leader or king amongst the serpents, and he has a friendship with Indra. So whenever I try to devour the forest, Indra sends torrents of rain and it's spoiled, so I can't devour the forest. So I went to Lord Brahma and requested what to do. Actually, it was Lord Brahma who suggested my illness can be cured by taking the herbs from this forest. When I couldn't take the herbs from the forest because Indra stopped it, I went back to Brahma. He said, well, you have to go to Krishna and Arjuna, because in this world, they are non-different than Narayana, and they're all powerful to fulfill the purpose of the demigods, and whatever it is that you require, they will help you. So I've come before you, and I'm requesting your help. And Arjuna said, very well, we'll do whatever we can. I want you to know, however, I have many celestial weapons, but I don't have a bow to release those weapons. Because if we try to help you, then Indra is going to come, and the host of demigods will come, and I'm going to need a proper bow, and I'm going to need a celestial chariot, and I'm going to need an inexhaustible quiver of arrows. And if you can provide those things, I'll protect you, and you can devour the forest. Agni, the god of fire, was very happy hearing their consent, because he had all confidence in Brahma's word. And he meditated very deeply, and instantly Varuna appeared. When Varuna appeared, he brought with him all those things that were requested by Arjuna. Here's the description. Agni requested Varuna to present Arjuna with the celestial bow Gandiva, 2 inexhaustible quivers of arrows, the chariot belonging to Soma, the moon god. The chariot was golden, with golden harnesses and celestial horses from the realm of the Gandharvas, and could travel anywhere within the worlds. Above the chariot flew a banner bearing an image of Hanuman. And when the Gandiva bow was presented to Arjuna, he was marveling at its stature. It was as tall as a human being. It appeared like a rainbow embedded with celestial gems. He pulled the bow back and twanged the bow. And all the animals in the forest were startled and started running. Apparently it was a really big sound. And in addition, Varuna gave Krishna the Kamodaki club. Very generous gift. Krishna used that club later. And now, seeing the chariot, he got on the chariot, started to move around. This is all I need. I'm ready. You can begin devouring the forest. And Indra and whoever may come, the host of gods, and even all the gods and the asuras together, I'll be able to defeat them. And sure enough, that's what happened. There was a big fire that lasted for 12 days. But in the course of that big fire, so many entities were being killed by the fire. And when they tried to escape, Arjuna shot them with his bow. Now, the Naga Takshaka was absent at that time, but his wife was there. Mahabharata says that Arjuna shot an arrow that split her head. She had a son, and the son then tried to run, but Indra then made this big wind, so there was lots of dust. Arjuna couldn't see, and he had the son protected, son of the Naga Takshaka. Indra, of course, Indra is the father of Arjuna. And there's a very lengthy, many-page-long description of the battle. What you see in the painting here is, at one point, after the rain started pouring down on the forest, because the demigods went to Indra saying, help, look at this. The forest is being burned. So he sent lots of rain, but the rain, because the forest fire was so intense, it just became vapor. So he doubled it and tripled it and more rain. And eventually, Arjuna, with all of his arrows, made a sufficient canopy, just like an umbrella, and all the rain went away. And all the rain wasn't falling on the forest. And many details. You know how battle scenes are. this and that different devas, they also came and they did their thing, and Arjuna combated their weapons and so forth and so on. And then Indra escalated the rain. It became like pillars coming down and kind of, and Arjuna was capable of defeating him every time. Every time. And Indra was appreciating, wow, my son is really a great warrior. So then he tested his strength with other things, and again, Arjuna defeated him. Finally, he called off the demigods. They were following his leadership. And when he said, okay, that's it, they stopped. The forest was consumed. Agni was very grateful. Agni returned, and with folded palms, my illness is now cured. I'm very much indebted to you. Indra came before him and said, you're a great hero. Ask for any benediction you would like. Arjuna asked for your celestial weapons, please. Indra promised, I'll give them to you when Shiva gives you his Pashupata weapon. I'll then take you to the heavenly realm and give you all the fire and wind weapons. But that will be sometime in the future. So he made that promise. However, while the fire was still raging, Mayadanava had been living in the forest. He was living underground, and the heat was too much, so he started to flee. When he started to flee, Agni was chasing him with his flames. Krishna saw him. Krishna was ready with his Sudarshan chakra to finish him. Mayadanava was very smart. He went and fell at the feet of Arjuna and begged Arjuna for protection. Immediately, Arjuna said yes. And Arjuna turned to Krishna and said, please withdraw your Sudarshan chakra. When Krishna withdrew his Sudarshan chakra, just at Arjuna's request, then Agni also stopped harassing Mayadanava. So Mayadanava is now feeling gratitude. It's the cognitive, the affective, and the motivational. Now, Mayadanava, we hear Mayadanava's name in Ramayana. Danava means born of Diti. The sons of Diti are Danavas. The sons of Aditi are Adityas. The sons of Diti are Danavas. So Maya was a Danava because he was a son of Diti. And we know that Maya Danava had two, according to Mahabharata, had two sons and a daughter, and his daughter became the wife, the principal wife of Ravana. Mandodari was his daughter. Long description from Ramayana. But here he is, long time later, has a long life. Mayadanava. He has mystic powers, many, many mystic powers. So he was pleading with Arjuna, I want to do something for you. Out of my gratitude for giving me shelter and saving my life. So Arjuna declined. And he kept appealing, and he said, well, I don't want to disturb your appeal, so you can just do something that's for Krishna. So Krishna then made a request. Build a splendid assembly hall for Yudhishthira. Now, the Khandava Prastha had already been built, but there was no assembly hall. The like of this hall should be not found anywhere in the world. It should contain the features of celestial architecture and be impossible for anyone else to emulate. So he agreed. He's a mystic. Now, he uses materials. He said, I have to go to a place where I was previously building something for the other Danavas, and it's in the Himalaya mountains. And when I go there, I can gather all the materials I need. And together, they went back to Kandavaprastha, consulted with Yudhisthira, what did he want, and according to the indications of Yudhisthira, the plan was made, and Mayadanava went to the North Country to get all the ingredients. While he was there, he retrieved from the Mainaka lake a conch shell, and he said to Arjuna, when I give you this conch shell, just by blowing upon this conch shell, it'll shatter the hearts of your opposition armies. And there's a very celebrated club. Vrisha Parva was the king of the Danavas, and I'd like to give that club to your brother Bhima. That is equal, according to Mahabharata, equal to 100,000 ordinary clubs. Doesn't say what's special about it, but that's a lot of times special for Bhima. So Bhima gets, Arjuna gets, and Krishna gets. And that means Krishna gets means Yudhisthira gets. And now they all went back to Kandavaprastha. Now it's going to be called Indraprastha from this time forward. And Krishna's preparing to leave while the assembly hall is being built. Get the ingredients, assemble the whole thing. So Krishna speaks to Kunti, taking her blessings to depart, his aunt, and Kunti embraces Krishna. My dear Keshava, you are the supreme soul of this universe. You're always kindly disposed toward everyone, but you especially protect your devotees. From the day that Akrura arrived in Hastinapur, I knew that you were thinking of the welfare of myself and my sons. I am confident that whatever difficulties we may experience are arranged by Providence for our ultimate good. So I hope you can remember the nature of gratitude, and we'll hear some more as we go along. But even when seemingly misfortune comes, there's gratitude that's in the heart. Remember from this morning, this nice description of St. Francis. Whenever there is something that looks like misfortune, the heart doesn't change because it looks like misfortune. And this is the reason. I'm confident that whatever difficulties we may experience are arranged by Providence for our ultimate good. Difficulties did they experience? Too many. According to Grandfather Bhishma, more difficult than an ordinary person could even survive. But they were not only surviving, but they were protected. They were very dear to Krishna. And why were they very dear to Krishna? Because they had Krishna very dear to them. And Krishna is grateful, and they're grateful for Krishna's protection. So after some time, Krishna returned to Dwarka. And after some time, the assembly house was built. There's a nice illustration meant for Hridayana Maharaj's Mahabharata that never got published. And, you know, it's magnificent architecture. Mayadanava really did a good job. And it leads into the very next event, which is the lake or the pond that looked like land and the land that looked like pond, and Duryodhana fell in it. And Krishna was there, and Krishna inspired everybody, including his queens, to laugh at him because he knew what that would do. It resulted in Duryodhana, that was it. I can't live on the same planet with these people. Now he came to offer his respect, at least ostensibly, socially, but that wasn't his heart. And Krishna was inspiring the demise of Duryodhana by this clever arrangement. So the narration this is it for this evening. The narration is an example of our main topic for this evening, and that is these three aspects of gratitude, which Kunti exhibited, which Mayadanava exhibited, and which anyone who has genuine gratitude will have. A recognition of a krita, a favor that's been performed, krita gya, feeling, recognizing the gift or the favor that's been done, feelings connected, and wanting to do something. Expression of gratitude in some practical way. Now, in Kunti's practical way, it was sending Bhima to kill Baka. And in Mayadanava's practical way, it was building the assembly hall for the Pandavas. And how much have we received from others, starting with the gift of the holy name? And Sunday morning, we're going to hear the Brihat Bhagavatamrita description of the gratitude that was felt by Gopakumar from having received his mantra from his spiritual master. Very amazing example in literature, describing a very profound kind of gratitude for a very special gift. So for ourselves, we have received so much. Now, it's possible for someone to feel other feelings besides this one. But as we progress in our devotional life, gratitude is a natural thing. Starts with humility. That was a morning class. And it naturally overlaps with or leads into gratitude. And all of it is resting upon our taking full shelter in service mood to the personality of Godhead. From that one, all other good qualities come. So that's our discussion for this evening. And it only took us 40 minutes. No, 50 minutes. So let's see if there's some discussion.
Hare Krishna, Maharaj.
Go
We
ahead.
have a question.
Yes.
We have a question from Antaranga Seva Mataji, who's asking, Karna, to show gratitude to Duryodhana, did all sorts of wrong things, even though he knew that his actions were not correct. So, what is the criterion for deciding how to show gratitude when we know that a person who did a lot for us is not on a good path?
Well, you know my answer to that question, and that is it depends. And you know, it's the resting upon what's the best. Then you have to customize what's best. The principle is wishing well and wishing to be an instrument of Krishna. So how you can be best an instrument of Krishna depends on the variables. You know, that's what it depends on. The person, the place, the circumstance, your relationship. Even just you remain the well-wisher of that person, that's the starting point. And then you can, Ram Raghava, can you take your camera off, your video off? Thank you. Depends. Who you are, who they are, the circumstance. What's a doable step? What's something that they can recognize as your good intention and not misconstrue it otherwise, and so forth. So what to do depends on all the variables. Don't depart from being the well-wisher of, and being in the consciousness of being an instrument of Krishna. And then Krishna may give you the intelligence how to best proceed. Next.
Thank you, Maharaj. The next question is from Yashodanandan Prabhu, who asks, is the Dakshaka of the story of Agnidev the same as the Dakshaka that was the cause of Parikshit Maharaj's departure?
Probably not. It seems, from what I was able to, I knew somebody would ask this question, because I was pondering on that same. It seems that there's a breed or a species of snakes that can fly, not just this one mystical Takshaka that bit Maharaj Parikshit, but a category. So it may or may not be, but it seems to be, as far as I could gather, from the category of snakes that have wings and can fly. Next.
Thank you, Maharaj. The next question is from Yolanda Mataji. She's asking, when it comes to the motivational aspect of gratitude towards our spiritual well-wishers, what first comes to mind is to assist in preaching. What would be a broader vision on repaying our debt with our actions?
Well, I don't know if broader is the right adjective, because in order to be assist in the mission, the preaching mission, the purity is required, and good character and good example, so that those who we preach to become inspired. And we have then the purity is the force. We have the capacity to assist them to make the right steps and become themselves pure. Because the persons we're reaching out to, generally speaking, are conditioned souls that have coverings. So purity will help our effectiveness as preachers. So that's an internal cultivation. Now that's just not necessarily broader, but it's maybe more effective or more powerful. That purity is the force. Then you can think specifically. It was in the gratitude document that was circulated. If there's something that person who you feel you have received from and you'd like to give back in the motivational area, think of something that they like or that they represent, and you try to do that. What I'm saying here is, Srila Prabhupada wrote a paper on the departure of Gandhi, and this was his message: the way to honor a great person is not just making a statue or naming a street after them or a building after them or something, but you try to make a society where people live according to their values. And then he called that place Gita Nagari because he was a follower of Gita. So carry forward. Let's say someone is departed. So what is it that person, the values that they held, that you'd like to place your feelings for that person in some practical way? Try to create in the world a mood or a way of life that's like the values that they held. And the same, someone that you look up to, that's something that that they value, then you contribute to that. That's kind of like Lord Chaitanya's mission, which is kind of like preaching, but even more specifically to, a personality and something that they excelled in and gave as a gift to the world. So it doesn't have to be that, but that's a means. Next.
Thank you, Maharaj. The next question is by Yashodanandan Prabhu, who asks, do you have any tips on right-sizing gratitude? I have a tendency
Tips on which kind? Tips on what?
Right-sizing.
Right-sizing, okay.
Mm-hmm. He says, I have a tendency to overemphasize feelings of gratitude for someone whom I don't have a strong relationship with. And for those that I am close to, familiarity breeds contempt or apathy.
Well, it sounds like you're halfway there already. Meaning, you know the saying, charity begins at home. And, so just turn the dial or invest in those relationships. Do a little, introspection within your heart and consider how you have gotten to where you are and what are the main resources that have helped you to get to where you are, practically speaking. And just you invest energy there, and it corrects the right sizing concern that you expressed, it seems. And if you have a tendency to drift, then put your hand on the steering wheel, get your intelligence moving, and bring it back to that which you have become and that which you would like to become. Invest there. That's the right sizing tool. Next.
Thank you, Raj. The next question is from Atulya Mataji, who asks, you mentioned that difficulties are sent by Providence for our improvement. But sometimes I feel that there are difficulties just created by one's own mind, which may not be for my improvement. How to distinguish between the difficulties for my improvement or just my own creation?
Well, there's not really a distinction. You can make that distinction, but it's just a different bucket or a different category. Meaning, supposing you didn't have that tendency to create, then the event would just be an event. But the events that are interpreted by you as a problem or a what's the word that we were using? Difficulty. Anyway, a difficulty that comes your way. Huh? No. There was something within her question. I've lost my track of thought. So you can make a distinction, but it's kind of artificial because the problem is not necessarily what's outside, but it's what's inside, and the situation is to help you correct what's inside. And that situation that's going to help, that will perturb you, will happen again and again until the inside gets cleansed. So it's an opportunity to purify. I hope. If that doesn't answer your question, then ask it again in a different way. Go ahead, next.
Thank you, Raj. The next question is from Madan Mohan Prabhu, who asks, is it true that to be grateful for spiritual benefits is higher in quality than to be grateful for material benefits? If so, is it correct? Sorry, Raj.
That's not even. There's no comparison. One is on the material platform, the other is on the spiritual platform. The material platform is not real gratitude. Go ahead.
Oh, he was asking, if so, is it correct to say Maya Dhanava's gratitude was not of the highest quality?
Yeah. But it's a yes. Yes. Very good. Very good. We will be speaking about gratitude according to material gratitude and transcendental gratitude. That's one complete topic. Next.
The next question is from Sri Vrindavan Mataji, who asks, should we surmise that Krishna puts his dear devotees in difficult circumstances to A, glorify his devotees and their Sharanagati, or B, broadcast the glories of devotion to him, their glories of devotion to him?
It sounds like that both A and B are one. There may be other reasons besides those A and B ones, which seem to be quite similar, and that is intensifying their devotion, magnifying not just to others, but intensifying in the magnitude their devotion. Not like the classic is the difficulty that Sanatana Goswami was put in by his wet itches. And then the checkmate that that Lord Chaitanya put him into. It was just to intensify, or, so many examples. Krishna is dealing with the residents of Vrindavan. Krishna is dealing with the gopis. To intensify their devotion, exclusive devotion, not that they weren't pure devotees, to intensify it. Next.
Thank you, Raj. The next question is from Shyamasaki Mataji, who asks, a lot of the times I feel that what I'm trying to do, the motivational part of gratitude, isn't enough in return for what I have been given. Do I just keep trying to do a little more? Or is that a good thing to feel, and I should never feel like I've reciprocated enough?
Yeah, the second one. It doesn't mean the second one doesn't mean don't do the first one, but you just have to settle with the fact that it's enough. It's never enough is enough. How's that? Next.
Thank you, Raj. The next question is from Paramananda Prabhu. He says that this is a continuation of his question from this morning. Krita in Kritagna is both material and spiritual favors. Trying to pay back the favor is Sanatan Dharma, and it is the third aspect of gratitude, the motivational aspect. So even though devotees are not in debt for the material favors, in addition to recognizing and feeling grateful, we act and try to pay it back. Is this correct?
Yes. Because that is to say, you spiritualize everything by Krishna consciousness. Next.
Thank you, Raj. The next question is from Shaurya, who asks, why did Indra try to stop the fire instead of trying to stop Arjuna?
In the forest, you probably didn't catch it. Maybe I didn't say it properly. In the forest was a friend, someone who he was extending protection to. And that person who he was extending protection to was Takshaka. Because Takshaka was in the forest whenever Agni was devouring the forest with fire, he would rain because he was protecting his friend, Takshaka. Now, it turns out that in the course of the forest that he couldn't stop, Brahma's voice was heard, and everyone knew who was speaking. Brahma was saying to Indra, no worries, Takshaka isn't home. So it's okay, let Indra continue. And besides Indra, the person who is blocking your reign, it's Narayan. This is right in Mahabharata. It's Narayan, and you're not going to be able to stop them anyways. So just let it go. That not understanding that it was Brahma speaking, so he let it go. I think that answers your question.
Thank you, Maharaj. The next question is from Ganganarayan Prabhu, who asks, how do we understand the killing of the inhabitants of the Khandava forest in order to assist Agni? So many are affected for the sake of one.
Yes, that is a good question. I don't have a good answer to that good question. Yeah, actually, here something that comes to mind is, I think it was Brahma that said to Agni, you want to be able to cure your illness, go to Narayan, Krishna and Arjuna, they're Narayan, and the residents of the forest are demons. Now, it doesn't mean all the squirrels and bugs and chipmunks and everybody else were demons, but there were demons in the forest. So it's authorized, specifically Mahabharata says it's authorized. You can let the fire burn. Now, it doesn't answer the other. There's the innocent besides the demons. Now, what about the innocent? I don't have an answer for that. It's thinking about this question, in anticipation of this question, I was thinking, is there something similar? And the only something similar that I could think of was the prachetas, and they were also burning the forest, but the purpose of the burning of the forest was to create agricultural land. But as they were burning the forest to create agricultural land, so many trees and innocent other entities in the forest were being killed. Not, either burned or harmed, but killed. So how do you justify that? How do you justify anything? You justify, you justify anything transcendentally that is done for Krishna, and materially that is done according to codes of Dharma. And then there's no sin incurred if you're doing something according. So I don't know. I was going down that path. A king, for the sake of the citizens, needs agricultural land, and to clear agricultural land, you clear agricultural land. But Agni's got a stomachache because too much ghee, and it's innocent creatures. So it doesn't sit right. I don't have a good answer for a good question. If you can find a good answer, let me know. Thanks. Next.
Thank you, Raj. The next question is from Amrita Kali Mataji, who's asking, I'm trying to understand the connection between exercising these three aspects of gratitude and the gratitude ladder that we discussed in the breakout sessions. Though I consciously try to recognize and express my gratitude, I feel I'm missing on the motivational part. Could that be a reason I keep going up and down on the gratitude ladder?
Well, motivational just means I want to do something. And if you're recognizing and feeling, for you to say I'm up and down on the motivational side tells me that the first two are missing or inadequate, insufficient. Because when you're feeling something, you want to do something. It's natural. So maybe I haven't understood your question, but if I've understood your question, you go back to the cognitive and affective, and it automatically will take care of the motivational, because motivational means, what are you going to do about it? You're feeling this, what are you going to do about it? Next.
Thank you, Marge. The next question is from Varshana Mataji. It's a little similar. What is the motivational aspect of gratitude? Is it how we express our gratitude, while cognitive is the thinking and affective is the feeling?
Well, maybe motivational isn't the best word, but here's what the chart says. I want to do something for you. It's like what Kunti wanted to do, and what Mayadhanava wanted to do, and what a person who's feeling gratitude wants to do. They want to do something for someone who has given some act of kindness, or you have been the recipient of some favor from them, or something that they gave that at least the intention from their side was beneficial. So that's your question. You and Yolanda need to speak, because she has a clear sense of what motivational is. You want to do something, like you go and preach. If you just received Krishna Bhakti, give Krishna Bhakti, because someone came and gave it to you, so you go and give it to someone. It's that wanting to do something. That's what motivational means. It's a practical activity expressing what you're feeling, the gratitude that you're feeling. I find it a little challenging not having the person in front of me to have some back and forth to make sure that I've understood what it is that they're wishing to get clarity on. We don't have that privilege. So you're feeling a little frustrated. I'm letting you know I'm feeling a little frustrated, or compromised, I guess, by the circumstance. But that's it. It is what it is. Next.
Thank you, Maharaj. The next question is from Ramaragava Prabhu, who's asking, with regards to the story of Namachintamani, the importance of throwing away the touchstone before getting the holy name is very striking, especially for me, because the touchstone signifies falling back to the old habits and impatience if the effect of the holy name is not immediately realized. Sorry, Maharaj, that was a comment.
Okay, this is a comment. So what to do when you're in a circumstance like that? You there's a very nice teaching, which we're going to hear tomorrow morning, from Bhaktivinoda Thakur. You continue anyway, and await that good fortune when the coverings become cleared, and the lower motivational purposes are elevated, and you become spontaneous, becomes attraction for the name rather than struggling with the mind and your conditioning. So you go forward with faith. The process is purifying, and however much covering I have with faith, let me keep going forward, and I'll get there. Okay? How are we doing?
We have 2 more questions, Maharaj.
Go ahead.
Amara Mataji would like to present her question.
I can see Amara Mataji. There she is.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. I wanted to present it personally because I wanted to clarify one understanding, and I'm myself not feeling very clear about my question. If my understanding is correct, to be able to express these 3 aspects of gratitude, there was something that was not very essentially on a spiritual platform that was done for them. that was very tangible, and that could be very much sensed on a sensual platform, like some favor was done to them. But like in my case, I'm feeling that if like I'm learning that I need to see what ritual is being given to me. But at my level, although those devotees were very elevated, for them Krishna was doing something, but that was very tangible. So at my level, I'm expected to see something spiritual that is coming to me, and I'm more not on that level. So how to understand this this scenario, Maharaj? Thank you.
I think I've got your question, and I recommend that you have a conversation with Krishna Priya and Advaita Chandra. Now, Krishna Priya has gone off to help take care of her mother, but both of them have a very clear sense of the holistic picture of a life of devotion. The holistic picture of a life of devotion is spiritual benefit is part of the package, and there's other parts of the package. And it's also part of serving and giving and receiving. And so when you see the holistic picture, that it's all part of making spiritual progress and giving and receiving on the spiritual plane. Although, just like you as a mother, you're doing things for your family members, your husband and your children, that are not just, chanting together and reading together and discussing Krishna activities together. But, it's all part of, excuse me, with a holistic picture, as part of giving and receiving Krishna Bhakti in the holistic picture. So discuss with them, because they have they have deeply thought through this, and they live their lives that way, and they have very wholesome dealings in their family. Okay?
Definitely, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah, thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. The next question, Maharaj, is from Surabhi Mataji, who's asking, it is said that the yajna fire is the tongue of Lord Krishna, accepting all offerings. How did Agni feel indigestion?
It's the tongue of Vishnu, and Vishnu has extensions, right? The devas are extensions or expansions of Krishna. Agni is one. That's how. Next.
Thank you, Maharaj. That is all the questions we have.
Okay. Well, considering the fact that we're in this pandemic isolation thing, there's nobody in the room. So we'll just end here, and we'll look forward to seeing you again tomorrow morning, Central Time. Go ahead, Yasodhanandana, take it away.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. Thank you so much for that presentation. We will meet again starting tomorrow morning at 7:30, so please be on time. It's a very special event happening. Maharaj will be speaking on gratitude within Dharma and within transcendence. And then that will be the lead up to the formal Vyasa Puja ceremony after a brief break. See you all then. Hare Krishna.
Do all your Dharma.